Hello, 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 and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jameelah, and I am a master manifester. And I'm sure you are too, because you are consuming content like this. The name of this channel is Holistic Manifesting, because I believe in a whole mind. I started thinking about something else, and my little automatic spiel got out of my head. Whole mind, whole and whole being experience. My apologies. It won't come to me now because I let myself get off course. It's like when you're driving and you got to one location to the next and you really don't remember to drive in between because it's muscle memory. That's what that phrase is for me now. So I have to start from the beginning to get it right. So I hope y'all will forgive me. Nonetheless, something about you being a master manifester, because I know you are, because you're consuming content like this. Oh my God. I don't know why I'm tickled by that today, right? I'm gonna blame it on my new crystals. I got new, what is it? Garden quartz, and I forget the name of this one. It was called Tourmature. I'll look it up, but it's a quartz, and I've been meditating with these lately, and you know, I've been feeling a shift, and I appreciate it. Nonetheless, today what I'm discussing in this video is undigested emotions. And the reason why I like this term, I heard someone else say it in another video I was watching, and I was like, that's a really awesome term, undigested emotions. And like taking you on a little bit of a journey of what undigested emotions looks like over time. So when I say undigested emotions, it's because we walk around this world and we're taking in things even when we don't know that we're taking things in, even when we don't know that we are experiencing different environments. We are. I talked about this in another video, how I went to this, this luxury villa in the south of France. And when we arrived, it was so remote that the women were like, that was an uncomfortable kind of like, thing going on. And the energy just spread like wildfire. Then everybody was kind of like, are we safe? But we were perfectly safe. It was beautiful, wonderful experience. But it just shows you how like sometimes your emotions that you are experiencing and feeling, they don't necessarily stem just from you. They also stem from the environments that you are absorbed inside of. If you make every single thing about yourself, sometimes I think you'll be chasing ghosts. You'll be looking for things that are wrong with you or things that you need to address or change that really are not embedded deeply in you. How many of us have gone into different environments and experienced these negative feelings or particular feelings in a certain way, and then left those environments and you're just like, wait, I feel like a weight was lifted. What was that about, right? We've experienced this in relationships, definitely, right? We're connected to certain people. Sometimes we get so accustomed to the feelings and we expect that all our emotions are our own, but after we take them on, they are our own. But we expect that they all originated with us. So, and then we are no longer with this person. You're just like, oh my God, like a weight was lifted. Why was this so heavy? Why was this person's energy so heavy? And a lot of times you're like sucking up what's around you, right? So we take all these things in all the time, and some of the stuff that we take in or some of the stuff that triggers us are actual things that we probably need to work on and probably cycle through and figure out, why is this affecting me this way? And how do I change it so that I'm not giving so much of my energy to this area and I can use my energy for things that are more important to me and like building my future and expanding and growing and being all those wonderful things. So just like food, I'll think about it in that way. Just like food, if the food you are consuming is too heavy or it's not good for you in some kind of way, it takes a while to digest. This is how I feel when on the occasion I have something that's beef. I told in another video, me and my daughters, that their summer trip was to Los Angeles this year. And when we were there, we went to, like, I think it's In-N-Out Burger. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's In-N-Out Burger. And when I tell you, it completely shifted my digestive system. I heard gurgly noises and all this kind of stuff. It's like I hadn't had beef in forever. And I'm not inherently against beef altogether, but it's just something that I never choose. Either I choose the fish or the shrimp. I love seafood, and then I'll choose chicken if that's not available from at restaurants or whatever. But beef is normally the last thing that I'll choose, right? And so like going through that process, it showed me like, okay, it's taken my body like 2 days to digest this food, when normally I'm digesting food more than one time a day or whatever, right? So emotional digestion, undigested emotions are the exact same way. When we have extra heavy emotions, they get stuck and stagnant in our system if we are not fully working through them, right? And we can work through those undigested emotions in so many ways. People do like shadow work. People do mirror work, looking in the mirror and speaking to yourself. They do work of like parenting their inner child. That's something that never resonated with me. But I always think there's so many methods to get to the point of digesting these emotions, right? Something else is meditation is huge for a lot of people in that space. I know for me, breath work is important. Whenever I have really tough emotions or something coming up, if I stop and get in the present moment and I do breath work and I take those deep breaths and then I hold my breath for 4 points and then exhale and then I empty out as much air as I possibly can until my chest hurts. And I know that I'm getting rid of stagnant air that kind of doesn't move in your system. I know that I am pushing through certain emotions, and I know over the past few weeks, there's certain things and people and places that I've let go when it comes to my daughters and their connections and all that. I've let go of holding on to any expectations there, holding on to any old resentments there and stuff. And like, I literally don't feel the sting. And we think that, you know, we work through these emotions and it's going to feel good perfectly, whatever. But just like food, when you put the wrong things in your system, you may be digesting it for a minute, right? It may run you to the restroom a bunch of times before it's actually out of your system. And our emotions are the same way. So if we beat ourselves up because we feel the sting of it again after we're doing meditation or breath work or shadow work or parenting our inner child and all those types of methods, then we don't really see the process happening. It's like a journey, and you have to be willing to go on that journey and know that at the end of this, there will be a day to where I just wake up and be like, hey, I ain't really bothered by that thing no more. And you almost never see it coming, but you got to keep doing the work, right? And so information is the same way. If we get too much information, because we've all heard of the reticular activating system, where it filters out the information that we receive on a regular basis, because if we received all of the information that was out there, all of the colors, all of the smells, all of the sounds, all of the shapes, everything that was coming at us 24/7, our brains would be in overload. The reticular activating system acts like a throttle, not a throttle. I'll say it's something that, maybe a throttle is a good word for it, right? Or something that allows only a certain amount of power to pass through at a particular time. I think throttling is probably a good word, right? My dad used to teach me things about cars, and I remember something about a throttle body or something like that. And it allows only a certain amount of power to get through or something. Kind of like it bottlenecks on purpose. It slows down the information on purpose, right? So when we have these instances happen with information, if we were getting that full version of it, then it would be like a computer. Our brains would overheat and then we would pass out. And this is similar to something like when you have experienced an extreme emotion, or you're in extreme heat, or you have extreme anxiety, and you do something like pass out. It's essentially your body shutting down so that you can stop using the energy and you don't permanently negatively impact something. And believe me, I fainted before. I fainted like maybe 2 to 3 times in my life. It's the strangest feeling. It's like being awake and then being asleep instantly. It's kind of weird. And it was during times of extreme exhaustion. It was when I was emotionally exhausted. I was having a lot of anxiety. And then also I was in extreme physical environments being tested, right? So it builds up, and then we feel what we call emotional constipation. Emotional constipation plays itself out in sometimes it's crying all day, every day, and sometimes it's not being able to cry at all. And I literally went through like a 2 to 3 year period where I couldn't cry at all. I was having extreme anxiety at different times, but I no longer had the tears for anything. And so I know that it was because I was giving all my energy to a certain connection I was in, and I wasn't digesting my emotions related to it, because I was like, oh, everything for me is on the back burner. And, still carrying the single mom, duties and all that, and not having the help, and everything for me is on the back burner. We're going to be optimistic. We're going to be positive. But at the end of the day, you still need to be working through those emotions, right? When it builds up, it creates things like a lot of fear. That's how it shows up. It creates a ton of anxiety and bulimia. I'm very familiar with that one. A ton of stress. And then these things, because we are emotionally constipated, they manifest in the physical. They manifest through us having physical constipation sometimes, right? You ever get online when you're having a certain ailment or something's happening to your body, and you say, what is the spiritual component of that? I think Louise Hay wrote that book. I forget the name of it, but it was on my mom's bookshelf for years. And it was about, and there's another book too, The Body Keeps the Score. It's kind of like the same idea. Generally, a lot of times when you look up those ailments, say somebody's dealing with something like constipation, you look up the spiritual component of it, like actual constipation. You look up the spiritual component of it, and they'll say having unresolved emotions or feelings that you have not completely cycled through, or having experiences or traumas that you haven't worked your way past. And so it's the same thing. It's just an emotional constipation. I always feel like whenever I hear about women having feminine, is what I call them, feminine diseases in their bodies, it's somewhere in their life where their femininity is not being valued, it's not being explored, and it's being muffled or muzzled in some kind of way that they can't fully express the feminine version of themselves. And I'm not talking about putting on pretty dresses and earrings and makeup. I'm talking about those infinitely feminine aspects of who we are, the thoughtful aspects of who we are, kind of like the feeling, the emotion, the intuitive aspects of who we are, the love, the giving, the generosity, all these wonderful aspects of maybe the feminine experience is not being valued somewhere in their lives. You may often find out that they have bad relationships with their children because the children doesn't value them as a mother, and they've done things that they haven't been able to apologize for. So they have a huge issue in the feminine energy flowing in their lives. And so you'll see things happening to where they have what I call feminine wounds, which eventually turns into feminine disease, right? And that's like things related to the reproductive system, to the breast, and all those areas like that. And, this is backed up by science. It's not even just me saying this, especially if you read that book, The Body Keeps the Score, you'll see how these things play out. And it even plays out in the masculine too. And I was reading an article about that, how emasculated men, or men that identify as feeling emasculated by society, by their relationships or whatever, they're much higher cases of prostate cancer. Right? So I think it goes both ways. I just only know the female experience in that sense. So in order to digest these emotions, we're walking around with this stuff all day. And then when somebody says something wrong or does something wrong or looks at us the wrong way or taps our shoulder the wrong way, we want to blow up and, let loose. That's not necessarily a way to work through it. I think over time, something like that could work. But if it's not your goal to cycle through those emotions that are unresolved in you, I don't think that actually helps. And so I have many things that was unresolved when I was younger, and it showed up as anger. For a lot of years, it showed up as anger, right? I was looking at some notes I wrote because I was looking back at things the other day. And I remember, I didn't remember. I wrote on a paper, I am resentful, I am angry, and I am bitter. And it was probably related to raising children by myself because I didn't see it happen in that way. And I just felt like, is this acceptable? But I mean, like a lot of people are doing it, It is what it is. And so I was angry and bitter and resentful about that for a while, but I was stuffing it down so I can be a good mommy, so I can homeschool, so I can show up at the soccer games, so I can do the dance things, and I can, be the room mom and be this person that I know the children needed now. And a large part of me felt like you can deal with yourself and your emotions about this later. You can deal with your unresolved issues with this later. And I mentioned this in another video, how I wrote a letter to my ex-mother-in-law to dismiss her from my life because I realized that most of what that connection was based on was me pushing myself down and allowing people in my space who I don't think they deserve to be there in my space for the sake of the children. Well, guess what? Now my children are pretty much, I'm like, go straight to the kids. She got her own car. Let her meet you where they at. And they've been doing it. They met for lunch. They went and met for a graduation celebration. I had nothing to do with it. And when I tell you that was bliss, not having to carry that anymore. And so sometimes we have these undigested emotions because they work best for everyone else at the time. But we have to remember at some point, we have to go do the work for ourselves. We have to go get that work done ourselves. We have to be willing to meditate and get that alone time. We have to find ourselves in gratitude. We have to read the right books. We have to take in the right content. We have to do the mirror work, the shadow work, the parenting of the inner child, surrounding ourselves with the right people, places, and environments. And before you know it, it will pass. Just like, constipation. And, sometimes you need help with constipation. Think about babies. And sometimes you got to give them an enema. I feel like going to therapy, that's an enema. It's like, I have undigested emotions. How can you help me walk through these emotions so I can figure out what's wrong and what's weighing me down so that this stress, anxiety, fear doesn't turn into disease in my life? That's one of the biggest things I think is super important for us. Are we walking around with undigested emotions? Or do we have emotional constipation? And what steps are we going to take to cycle through it? Because at the end of the day, it's going to be a negative aspect of your experience in this life. And the most ways I've seen it show up is poor relationships and connections and poor health. Poor health is the biggest one I've seen. And undigested emotions. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day.